Okay, verse 12 in chapter 12 of Deuteronomy. And ye shall rejoice before the Lord your God, ye and your sons and your daughters. Do you have family worship? Or are your kids those that are described in the New Testament here? Lovers of themselves, boastful, mean, arrogant, distasteful. A lot of the kids that are running around in America are like that in many countries. Those are the ones that the demon craps want to bring into this country to overthrow. Once again, I say, prepare yourself. Get yourself some guns and some instructions how to safely use a weapon. Join some groups of folks that will guide you into that and help you do things the right way with safety and only the right way of living. You should teach yourself how to hunt, because you might have to do that soon. I don't mean tomorrow, but it's coming. I would suggest that you join the National Rifle Association, and they'll help you do all the right stuff. You also need to join one of those groups of attorneys that you will need if one day you have to use your gun or even just bring it out and stop somebody from doing something without shooting, because they're going to try to sue you for it, right? The bad people have the rights and the good people do not. Not according to the demon craps, all right? Not according to that black communist Muslim. And there's a lot of them. And ye shall rejoice before the Lord your God, ye and your sons, and your daughters, and your men servants, and your maid servants, and the Levite that is within your gates, for as much as he hath no part nor inheritance with you. The Levites were the priest. They were supported by all the other people. They didn't do the work. They didn't have all the herds and all that stuff, man. They were supported by other people. But they worshipped God. And those were the ones that have a heavy burden on their shoulders, man. If they're doing it the right way, God's going to bless them. Now, in this book here, you read about Eli and his two sons. His two sons were evil. They were in the priesthood. Oh, man. Bad things happen to those folks. That's what happens with a lot of the denominations today. Now, there are some good denominations. Now, the Seventh-day Adventist, now they worship on Saturday, the true Sabbath. You know, I don't agree with all of their doctrine. There's a lot of things I say, what? Are you kidding me? No. But if you want to learn some good stuff, you get some books that Ellen G. White authored. I think it was back in the 1800s and probably into the 1900s. Excellent diets. She talked about eating food and health and all that stuff. All this stuff that's coming out within the past 20 years, you know, this, oh, wow, a discovery. No. Ellen G. White wrote about this stuff, let's see, 50, 60 years ago, 70 years ago. Is it that long? No, it's even longer than that. 100 years ago. Man, over 100 years. I'm talking 1850, 60, 70, 80. Wow. That's well over 100 years ago. See, I'm getting off the track. But there are some good peeps out there. You just got to pay attention. Jesus says, when they're teaching or preaching, he says, search the scriptures and see if it's so. See if they're telling the truth. That's what we're doing right here. We're reading the scriptures. Take heed to thyself that thou offer not thy burnt offerings in every place that thou seest, but in the place which the Lord shall choose in one of thy tribes. There thou shalt offer thy burnt offerings, and there thou shalt do all that I command thee. Now, we don't do burnt offerings today. According to the book, I think there's going to be another more stuff built, and it might happen again. I'm not sure. I'll have to go over it again, but I don't want to get into that business. But we're not doing all of this. You know how you can make an offering to the Lord today? Feed somebody. Especially a family member. They don't have the money, and they're walking the walk. Try to encourage them to do the right thing. Teach them how to adjust and maybe sell something if they need to that they really don't need if they're in the need of some cash. You could unload some of your stuff and cut back and adjust yourself and share. In order to get a harvest, you have to plant a seed. You want to plant good seeds because they will come back. Notwithstanding, thou mayest kill and eat flesh in all thy gates, whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God, which he hath given thee. The unclean and the clean may eat thereof, as of the roebuck and as of the hart. Only ye shall not eat the blood, ye shall pour it upon the earth as water. He's talking about eating meat, man. When I was a kid, there was a standing order from the Catholic Pope. You can't eat meat on Friday. It's not what God said. Ye shall know them by their fruits. The Pope. Now that's a joke right there. Now here's something. I'm still in chapter 12 of Deuteronomy, and I'm up to verse 17. There's a little heading on top of it that says, holy things to be eaten in a holy place. Thou mayest not eat within thy gates the tithe of the corn. That was the first 10% that you offer to God. Today you don't necessarily bring it to a house of God. You can feed somebody with it today. All right? Or of thy wine, or of thy oil, or the firstlings of thy herds, or of thy flock, nor any of thy vows which thou vowest, nor thy free will offerings, or heave offering of thine hand. You can't bring all that kind of stuff into the holy place. But thou must eat them before the Lord thy God in the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. Thou and thy son and thy daughter and thy manservant and thy maidservant and the Levite that is within thy gates. And thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God in all that thou puttest thine hands unto. You know something? When I worked, before I retired, I loved what I did. I gotta do a Marco Rubio here. Here we go. Yeah. I heard it said a long time ago, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. It's just what you do every day. Very comfortable. Take heed to thyself that thou forsake not the Levite. That's the priest back in them days. As long as thou livest upon the earth. God says you're going to take care of them. He's talking to me. You're going to take care of these people. If you belong to a fellowship or something like that, where you're being taught by a man and his family scripture, and it's legit, and he worships on the Sabbath, the seventh day of the week, and he's only doing what God says, and he's preaching right from the Word, he's worthy of receiving from the flock to support him. Hey, that's a heavy job, man. You don't think so? You try reading this book every single day and doing the right thing. Have you been doing that? Maybe not. It's not easy to do. When the Lord thy God shall enlarge thy border, as he hath promised thee, and thou shalt say, I will eat flesh, because thy soul longeth to eat flesh, thou mayest eat flesh, whatsoever thy soul lusteth after. Oh, you can't eat meat on Friday. That's not what God says. If the place which the Lord thy God hath chosen to put his name there be too far from thee, then thou shalt kill of thy herd and of thy flock which the Lord hath given thee, as I have commanded thee, and thou shalt eat in thy gates whatsoever thy soul lusteth after. And let's do it at your house. Even as the roebuck and the hart is eaten. That's H-A-R-T, hart. I think that's the female deer. Not sure on that. So thou shalt eat them. The unclean and the clean shall eat of them alike. I'm not going to talk about the clean and the unclean because, well, that's a whole story. We don't want to go there right now. Only be sure that thou eat not the blood. You got to drain the blood out of the carcass. You know, you kill a deer, you cut them open, take all the guts out, and you hang them. Let all the blood drain out. And then you butcher them, you know, and you eat the stuff. For the blood is the life. Right? If your blood drains all out of you, you die. Guess what? When you die, you're dead. And thou mayest not eat the life with the flesh. Okay? Remember me talking about when you die, your body is dead. The flesh turns to dust or back into the earth, right? And a lot of people teach, well, your soul goes up to be with the God. Went home to be with the Lord, they say. That's not true. that life that is in you, that's sacred right there, and that's God. Only God is life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. That's what Jesus says. And Jesus is God in the flesh. The part that goes back to be with God is the spirit, or the life, the breath. Scripture says the spirit, the life, the breath. I can go into this book here and show you how all that means the same thing in some instances, especially in this instant. The spirit returns unto God who gave it. When the woman gets pregnant, that's life. As soon as that egg gets fertilized by the sperm and it comes to life, that's God. That life is God. You know what's happening at Planned Parenthood? They're trying to kill God by killing the babies. They can't. That life, or that spirit, returns unto God who gave it. And guess what? Those people that are doing that are murderers. Thou shalt not kill. Now, if you happen to be an individual who had an abortion, you can't let that destroy you. I mean, as long as you're not still walking on that path, and you realize what happened, when you talk with God about it, He will remove that act that you did as far as the east is from the west. He will completely remove that from you, and He won't remember it anymore. Now you remember that life that was in you, that's the part that's with God. Because when God created man out of the dust of the earth, He says, God breathed into man the breath of life, and man became a living soul. The whole thing God considers as the soul. A lot of people preach, yeah, well, your soul can't die. But they don't read in the book and read, the soul that sinneth, it shall die. Those are the words that are in there. 1 second, and I'll be right back.